That's right, so
I heard. I didn't sure if it was for the fall of the holiday.
I'm sure.
Okay, we are back to Mem Zayin Amar Aleph 47a. What we've been discussing is the idea of, do we say a separate Shechianu for Shmini Atzeret? That was the discussion that we were having. We had the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, here we have Adam Yochanan, and we have the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan that said that we say Shechianu on the 8th day of the holiday. On the 8th day of the holiday of Sukkot, which is Shmini Atzeret, we say it's a separate holiday, and it gets its own Shechianu. And the Gemara was proving that point, and the Gemara brought two reasons to. The Gemara was explaining that it's different the 8th day than the days that precede the days before the 8 days. The Gemara said that it says parim, and here it says par. That the Torah separates the 8th day than the other 7 days. Like the other 7 days are like one unit. The first 7 days are one unit, and the 8th day is distinctly different. Like the Gemara says, Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, here it says Bayom Hashmini, the 8th day, and with all the other days of holiday it says U Bayom, U Bayom Hasheni, U Bayom and, which indicates all the first 7 days are just each day is in addition to the day before. But when it comes to Shmini Atzeret, it says, does say and, because it's not part of the other days. It's its own individual day. And if Ashi says, it says, when it talks about the Karbanot, it says, B'misparam kamishpat. It uses the word singular language when it comes to the 8th day. And when it comes to the Karbanot of the 7th day, it says kimishpatam, which again is mishpatam is joining all, like the laws of all of the Karbanot, joining them all together. And when it comes to the 8th day, it's unique. It's kimishpat, its own law. It's showing you that it's its own day, its own uniqueness. Now we're up to the Gemara of Lema Messiah. Now the Gemara is going to say, let's bring a proof to Rabbi Yochanan's law that you say Shechianu on the 7th day, on the 8th day of Sukkot. So Lema Messiah is on page 47a3. Lema Messiah. Let's support his ruling. Now, Haparim ve'elim va'kvasim. You know, the Torah talks about a certain amount of bulls that are brought on the holiday of Sukkot, a certain amount of rams, a certain amount of sheep, and here we have a discussion, an independent discussion about what happens if you're missing one of the bulls that you're supposed to bring on that day. Not the Chicago Bulls, right? You're missing a bull. You're supposed to bring, let's say, 12 bulls a certain day, 11 bulls. You don't have that. You're supposed to make a certain amount of sheep. You're supposed to make a certain amount of rams. So if you're missing any of them, so that would that hold back to bring the whole group, or do you bring exactly what you have? That is the question of the Gemara. There is, interesting. We have a halacha. Let's say, coming off of Pesach, there's a law you have to eat a kazayit of matzah the first night of Pesach, right? But if you cannot eat a kazayit of matzah, we still say eat what you can eat. You might not get credit for the mitzvah, but because you didn't do the full mitzvah, it's called a chatzi shir. You have part of the amount. even part of the amount is also called something. It's not the whole, it's not, you don't get credit for the full mitzvah. But the question is, do we say that concept over here? Do we say such a thing that if you're missing one animal, bring, the Torah says bring a certain amount of bulls, so you're missing one bull, you still bring the rest, or do you say it's one number? If you're missing one, you don't bring that group, any of those bulls. If you're missing any of the sheep, you don't bring any of the sheep. That is the question. Like, in a certain sense, the mitzvah of lulav and etrog hadashim and aravot. If you're missing one, do you get the mitzvah? Would you take the other one? I mean, but here, because you don't get credit technically for the mitzvah. Here, the question is, would you get credit for the mitzvah of bringing? Is there a mandate to still bring the rest of what you could do, or is it's all or nothing on those bulls or those sheep or those rams? So that's the Gemara's question. So we have the first opinion says haporim ve'elim hakvosim. The different animals that you're supposed to bring on the holiday of Sukkot, makvin says that if you're missing any one of that group, you do not bring that group of animals that day, and that is the first opinion. Comes Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, I want to tell you that Purim in makvin. I agree. If you don't have the right amount of sheep, you would not bring the rest of the sheep that you have. If you don't have the amount of elim, you don't bring the elim. You don't bring the rams. But when it comes to the Purim, when it comes to the bulls, if you don't have the right amount, you still bring what you got. Now, and what is going to be his reason? He says, there's something unique about the bulls that don't apply. I don't know if you want to send to the group that we're on thank you very much. There's something unique about, and also if you want to try, after you send through, if you want to try to get in, I presume you could get in, but I see it. There's a new thing on the screen that's not commonly there. The bulls, the Torah says, bring a certain amount of bulls day one of Sukkot. Then the Torah says, I want you to bring one less. Every day of Sukkot, you go down in the amount of bulls that you bring. And the reason for that, one of the reasons that's given is because the bull, yes, Anna, you are, thank you very much. The bulls represent, there's a total of 70 bulls that will be brought throughout the holiday of Sukkot. They represent the 70 nations. 70 is a big number. And those 70 nations, the ones that are enemies of the Jewish people, which we see we are suffering, throughout our history, b'chol davar dar, every generation they want to destroy us. Those bulls will, one idea is they represent the same way the bulls are getting less and less, all our enemies should become less and less. That's the idea of all the bulls lowering each day. That's one idea. And the fact that the Torah does not have a specific number of bulls, same number every day, it varies. So the Torah, so too, if you don't have that amount of bulls that you're supposed to bring for a particular day, you could just bring what you got. In contrast to the sheep, where the Torah is every day is the same amount, 2 rams, and 14 sheep every day. That never changed. But when it comes to the bulls, where every day it goes down 1, so therefore we see the Torah wasn't focused specific on one. They have to have the same amount of bulls every day. So if you're missing one day, it also you would bring what you have. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which is not the opinion of the Tanna Kama. It's not the opinion of the Chachamim. The Chachamim do not make a distinction between the bulls, the sheep, the ram, they say every day, if you don't have the number that you're supposed to bring, you don't bring the rest. And they bring a source, because the pasuk says kamishpat. You bring according to its you bring it according to its law, and which would sound like according to its law. You got to bring it according to its law. And if you don't have according to its specific stipulated law, you don't bring it. Amrulo. So now we're going to have a little discussion between the rabbis and Rabbi Yehuda on this subject. Okay, now we're at a total different subject. We're going to see how it's going to come relate to our subject. Amrulo, the rabbi said to Rabbi Yehuda, "V'halo kulam mismatim v'holchin b'shmini." All the animals, meaning the three types of animals that are born on the holiday, the bulls, the sheep, and the rams, they all go down in number. It's true. The sheep remain constant throughout the 7 days of Sukkot. The rams remain constant between the 7 days of Sukkot. But when it comes to day 8, there's a total drop. There's a total drop in the amount of sheep. There's a total drop, a drastic drop in the amount of sheep, a drastic drop. There's a drop in the amount of rams, and it goes in half. It goes from 14 sheep every day of the holiday of Sukkot, first 7 days, to 7 on Shmini Atzeret, and it goes from 2 rams to 1 ram. So it splits in half regarding the sheep. So he says, so we see that they're all going down on day 8. So according to your logic, if you're saying, listen, you're saying the bulls, there's a change in number of bulls. And because there's a change in number of bulls, so therefore any day of the holiday of Sukkot that you're missing the amount of bulls that you're supposed to bring, you're still good. You still could go ahead and bring what you got left, because the Torah is not specific on it. It has to be a same number. We see the number of bulls change. But so the Gemara says the rabbi shoot back. We see on day 8, everything changed. The sheep and the ram also changed. And so according to your logic, if you don't have the proper amount of sheep or the proper amount of rams, you should also be able to bring the rest, because you're saying because if something changes, that the law changes regarding the bringing of them, and we know you only when it comes to bulls you have a right to bring the remainder, whatever you got. And you don't say it regarding the rams and the sheep. So the same way you don't say it over there, you shouldn't say it over there. So that's what the Gemara is. That's the rabbi's question on Rabbi Yehuda's logic. So Amar Lahem. So Rabbi Yehuda says back, listen, you can't show me Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, use that as a proof that when things change, we still are able to use the same amount of even though things change and get less, you want to show me you still can't bring the rest the same way you don't bring the rest, the same way it changes over there. They said you can't, but Shmini Regel B'fnei Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret is a different holiday. Meaning, what does that mean to say? On the holiday of Sukkot, Rabbi Yehuda says, which is a 7-day holiday, there's no change in the sheep, there's no change in the rams. In the 7 days of Sukkot, day 1 through 7 is the same exact amount of number. Therefore, if you don't have all that total number during any day during Sukkot, you will not bring the rest what you have. Because the Torah is very particular on Sukkot. Each day you have to bring a specific number of sheep, a specific number of rams. Torah never told you a lesser amount, a different amount throughout the holiday of Sukkot. But when it comes to the bulls, in the holiday of Sukkot, those 7 days, Every day the Torah gave you a different number. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Every day is a different number. So when it comes to the bulls, there's a real change every day, and therefore the Torah does not feel you have to have a specific focus on a specific number every day, meaning it changes. So if it changes, if you're missing one any or missing some any day, you can go ahead and bring the rest. But when it comes to, good morning, Michael.
Good
Good to see you.
to see you.
But when it comes to Shmini Atzeret, the fact that you found, you're going to find, what it mean, Rabbi, Shmini Atzeret is a total change when it comes to the rams, and a total change comes to the sheep. Shmini Atzeret is a different holiday, he says. It's a regel b'fnei atzmo. Michael, we're on 47A, 47A3. It's a different holiday, and because it's a different holiday, you can't use that to any indication of anything regarding how we look at the 7 days of the holiday of Sukkot. They're two different holidays. Excuse me. It says they're two different holidays. You can't use it as a refutation or as a question to show that they also go down a number. They don't go down a number. Now, holiday of Sukkot, the sheep are all the same, constant, the same amount of sheep. Every day, it's 14 sheep. Every day there's 2 rams, and that's all 7 days. And therefore, if you're missing any of those sheep during the first 7 days of Sukkot, you don't bring the rest what you got. Or you don't, if you're missing any of the sheep or the rams. But when it comes to the bulls, where every day of the holiday of Sukkot, you're going down a number of bulls, therefore, if you're missing any of them, you could bring the rest. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Don't show me, good morning, don't show me Shmini Atzeret, don't show me the fact that Shmini Atzeret things change. That's not an indicator of change throughout the holiday of Sukkot itself. And the Gemara says, and he proves it. Rabbi Yehuda says, listen, Kashem Sheshivat Yemei Achag, Tunin Korban. The 7 days of the holiday, there's a special musaf, right? Every day of Sukkot, just like we have on Morning Morris. Welcome back. Maybe welcome back to me. I don't know. Every day of the holiday of Pesach, we had Musaf, right? We have a Musaf. Why do we have Musaf? Shach, we have Musaf. Musaf means additional. Mosif, an additional carbonot. We're 47A3. We had extra carbonot. So on Sukkot, the 7 days of the Chag of Sukkot, every day of Sukkot, we have more new carbonot, extra carbonot in honor of the day. And the same thing is by Shmini Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret has also extra carbonot. The 8th day of Sukkot is extra carbonot. Kashem Sheshivat Yemei Achag Tunin Korban. The Shir, and also there is a special song that's sung by the Leviim on the Korban Musaf, and the Musaf offering. Even every day of Sukkot, there was a special song that was sung for the extra korban. Now, even though there was a special song, but all the songs were even though they were different every day from the holiday of Sukkot, they didn't sing the same song every day. But all of the Mizmorim, all of the songs that the Leviim sung were connected to the theme of the special mitzvah of giving matanot laniyim, giving gifts to the poor. It's the time of the gathering of the grain, and it's a time to make sure you give the masrot, you give the maser, you give the percentage to the Leviim. You got to make sure you leave stuff in the fields. You're not supposed to, you leave the corner of the field, which is called peah. And sometimes certain things that you forget, you're supposed to leave, and certain things that drop, you're supposed to leave. So there's many laws that have to do with gifts that have to go to the poor, which happens during that time of Sukkot. So therefore, every day of Sukkot, there's a song that's from Tehillim that's connected with this theme of leaving for the poor, and therefore people will hear the song, and they will give with a very, they will give with a very big hand. You leave the corner of the field. It's probably how much of the corner? What's called the corner? You leave a bigger corner or smaller. Because I presume there's certain what's called the corner, and then leaving more. So that's some of those. So that's what they have. That's the song that's sung, and they have their own unique song, a song with its own theme throughout the holiday of Sukkot. It's interesting to note that we have this concept of song in the Beit HaMikdash. The Levim are singing every day. There are musical instruments in the Beit HaMikdash, right, Michael? And the point of all that, and the Rambam tells us about the big band we have in the Beit HaMikdash. And the idea is that Judaism and the service of Hashem is supposed to be done with Succah, with happiness. And it's not, religion is not dry. Judaism is not dry. It's supposed to be with Succah, with enthusiasm, and that's part of the idea. The Rebbeinu Bachai writes about why there is a song and there's instruments, there's a whole band going on, singers.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Shira is gematria tefillah.
Sfira.
Shira.
Oh, Shira, tefillah. Yeah, he said, Michael says Shira, the numerical amount of Shira, of song, is tefillah, is prayer, meaning there's a way of getting close to Hashem. When you sing Hashem's praises, tefillah is also a way to get close to Hashem. So the same way there's a unique shir, song, that's designated theme song, so to speak. It might be every day a different song, but it has one theme for the holiday of Sukkot, and bracha, and there's a special bracha on the 7 days of Sukkot. The Gemara is going to clarify what do we mean by bracha. What bracha are we referring? What blessing are we referring to? So the Gemara says, and lina, there's a special mitzvah in Yerushalayim that you bring the korbanot. You're supposed to stay overnight. If you brought the korban today, if today's the first day of Sukkot, if it would be, got to stay overnight. You don't just come and go. You just come in. I got my korban and I'm out. Stay over. You stay over in Yerushalayim and to bask in the holiness of Jerusalem. And that means if today, like I said, if today would be the first day of Sukkot, I come and I bring my offerings. I got to stay overnight. I got at least one night in. I got to have at least one night in the motel if I'm right. And Av Shmini, so too the eighth day, Ta'on Korban. The eighth day of Sukkot also has these type of similarities, uniqueness. It needs a korban. It has its own korban, its own unique offering, the eighth day, which means to be independent of the 7 days, has its own korban. Shir, it has its own song, an independent song, meaning not part of that theme song of the first 7 days. It has its own song. And bracha, it also requires bracha, which we didn't identify what's the blessing that we refer to. And also the korban of that day on Shmini Atzeret, when you brought the korban, if you brought a korban on Shmini Atzeret, you have to stay overnight also. Stay overnight in Jerusalem, Lina. So we see it's its own holiday. It has its own requirements. It has its own song. It has a bracha. It has staying overnight. So therefore, the Gemara wants to say, therefore, Rabbi Yehuda wants to say that we see it should deserve its own shechianu, right? Now, the commentary says the Chachamim also agree that regarding these matters, it's a fact. It has its status of its own holiday. It has its status that you stay overnight. It has its own song. It has its own unique korbanot, the Shmini Atzeret. Yet, they hold that since Shmini Atzeret is a holiday that comes right after Sukkot, and they hold that it will not, we won't give it a bracha. We won't give it a special bracha of Shechianu, the Kimana V'Gin Al They're like, they're still connected. The fact, yes, it's true. It might have its own properties, its own unique identity, Shmini Atzeret, because like we said, it has these concepts, but the fact that it is coming connected right to the holiday of the goat, and really, with like, if you want to add, like one of the commentaries say, why is it called Shmini Atzeret? One shot is to, I want you to stay another day. I'll hold back. I want to hold you one more day. Meaning God says, it's like a king who invited his son. Son came to town. Son lives somewhere else. The prince, what? Right. The next holiday, 6 months later, is the next biblical holiday after Sukkot. So God says, after I had such a beautiful time with my son. Now with the prince, I want one more day. So even though it might have different laws, it's unique, but it's directly that point of that chazal. It's directly connected to the holiday of the 7 days. It's just it's not a new time. It's just Hashem wants the continuation of that relationship that will stay one more day, right? Like a person, extend the ticket one more day in Israel. Want to stay one more day, right, Mars? One more day. I don't want to leave this holiness, right? So therefore, maybe even though it might have its own laws regarding the korbanot, and it has certain laws, there's a total different, amount of korbanot, and it's, it has the laws of its own song, but maybe that's not, doesn't warrant it its own shechianu, that it should have its own bracha, shechianu v'kimanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh. Maybe that could be a reason for that, for the Chachamim, because the Chachamim, and again, 1 second. The Rabbi Yochanan said it's a regal b'fnei atzmo, right? Rabbi Yochanan said it has its own holiday. Not necessarily. I mean, we're going to bring the proof. The proof comes from where is the proof from? From Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda calls it its own regel. Now,
but if it gets grandfathered in Sukkot, so when you're saying the Shechianu for Sukkot, doesn't it imply that the speaker of that
should it go for the whole?
The kavanah there too. So at the beginning of the holiday, you also have to.
I mean, according to the other meaning, the point is, Rabbi Yochanan needs to prove his point, right? Rabbi Yochanan is proving his point, and he's gonna need to show that we find there's a special bracha shechianu, correct? On Shmini Atzeret, and you don't just say the bracha of shechianu on the first day would cover. You have to say your own bracha of shechianu on the 8th day. And the Gemara wants to prove it by the fact. Look what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, Sa'af Shmini. So the Gemara says, Sa'af Shmini Ton Korban Shir Bracha Vilina. And the 8th day also has its own special halacha of bracha, song, and lina. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda wants to use that as a proof that so too, when it comes to the animals, you can't prove, you can't question, you can't use Shmini Atzeret as a question on on the halakha. Good morning, because the fact that Shmini Atzeret is things change. Shmini Atzeret it's its own thing, but so therefore maybe that's why the law by Shmini Atzeret by the animals are different, and therefore you can't prove that therefore during if you don't have the same proper amount of animals, let's say the first 7 days of Sukkot, right? If you don't have the right amount of sheep, you don't have the right amount of we say if you don't have that right amount, we say you do not bring it. You cannot bring anything. When it comes to the bulls, if you don't have the right amount of bulls, we say he says you will bring what you have, but the Torah is not particular about the bulls. But the Torah is particular because the Torah every day the bulls change. When it comes to the other items are constant all the 7 days of Sukkot. But the Chachamim don't want to look at the Shmini Atzeret so as that it's so different. But the Chachamim say it's still connected. And yet we say the law is when it comes to the sheep, when it comes to the rams, if you don't have the right amount of number, we say you can't bring it. So too, the Chachamim want to say if you don't have the right amount of bulls, you should not be able to go ahead and bring. You should not be able to bring the rest of the bulls. Yes.
As far as like a modern day application, I know sometimes like when we say the Amidah, there's the insertions for the holidays.
Right.
Sometimes we forget to say like Marit Hatah or forget Yalev Yavo. It says you have to repeat it. Other times you're good.
Right.
So, and I guess it applies to the whole service. Like, on different holidays we have Musaf, and Lidra and Nigila, we have so many of you before. This is a little bit of an amorphous question, but if you can't say it all, you should still say as much as you can. I would assume.
You can't say it all. Well, and what? What will be the case?
If you're, obviously, if you're on Yom Kippur, you're not feeling well enough, just fast. You don't try to, go to shul or something. You can't make it. It's too difficult for you. But if you can't say all of the prayers, or if you're,
Right. There's certain if you can't say everything, but the question is, we might not say a certain amount of blessings of the Shemona Esrei. There's certain things you might say you have to say a complete. You might say skip some other parts of davening.
Right.
So you might not say 5 of the 19 brachot, or 5 of the 7 brachot, or the 9 brachot.
Right.
So you might not shorten the Amidah. You might shorten other parts of the prayer. Certain things are considered a group that they have there's certain parts of that certain brachot are ma'akvot zuf. You can't just say one of the brachot, right? So the Gemara says, now the Gemara, I'm turning the page. My love, Zman. What is the intent of Rabbi Yehuda when he says the bracha? He says that the holiday, the 7 days of Sukkot and the 8th day of Sukkot, they all have this concept of called bracha. What's the unique bracha that they have? Isn't it the bracha of Shechianu? Isn't that what he's referring to? So we see, what do we see? That Shechianu, you say Shechianu on the 8th day of Shemini Atzeret. This is what the Gemara is trying to prove, right? What's it trying to prove? By the way, we just had Shvi Shel Pesach, right? We just came off the 7th day of Pesach. Morning, good to see you, Jay. On the 7th day of Pesach, we did not say Shechianu, right? We didn't say Shechianu in the Kiddush. The ladies, they didn't say Shechianu. Why was no Shechianu on the 7th day of Pesach? Because the 7th day of Pesach is the same holiday as Pesach. It just happens to be day 6, we were able to do a certain type of work. It was Chol Hamoed, and day 7, many more things we couldn't do. But it's not a new holiday. Continuation holiday of Pesach. When it comes to Shemini Atzeret, the Gemara says it's a new holiday. It gets its own Shechianu. And the Gemara wants to say, what does it mean by the bracha, that it has a bracha? What's this unique bracha that has on the 8th day? Isn't it Shechianu? And this is the Gemara to use this as a proof to Rabbi Yochanan's halacha. Because what did Rabbi Yochanan say? Rabbi Yochanan comes to town. Rabbi Yochanan says, you know what? On Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, you say Shechianu. Now, what I find very interesting is after the Gemara showed us there's a unique shir, there's a unique song on Shmini Atzeret, right? We say it has its own korban on Shmini Atzeret, and the Gemara showed you how it has its own status. And even Rabbi Yehuda said the words Shmini Rega B'fnei Atzmo. He referred to the 8th day as its own holiday. And yet, we're still trying to prove whether you will say Shechianu or not. Shouldn't that be? Shouldn't it be? Or shouldn't that be automatic that you say Shechianu? But it's not. The way we're learning that the fact that it could be its own holiday, but the fact that it follows immediately after Sukkot, and the fact that maybe, like we said, good morning, Jack, good to see you. The fact that we said maybe that it's just like, yeah, it's a new holiday, because like the holiday number 1 was over, but Hashem says, I want another day with the Jewish people, but not necessarily will we give it a Shechianu. Maybe like Max said, it's coming as part of the season. You know, I said Shechianu when I came to this time in the beginning of Sukkot. Maybe that Shechianu will cover me for this whole season, for the 8th day as well. So the Gemara needs to show, even by showing that it's its own holiday, might necessarily tell us that you have to say a Shechianu on it, which you would have thought that would be. You reach that should be in itself enough to say Shechianu. Not necessarily. And therefore the Gemara still needs to prove that you'll say a Shechianu on Shmini Atzeret. And the Gemara's proof is only because we have on record that Rabbi Yehuda says it requires its own bracha. It gets its own bracha. And the Gemara is thinking, what is this bracha that we're referring to? It's the bracha of Shechianu. Then the Gemara shoots back low. Now the Gemara says, no, when it says it has its bracha, it doesn't mean it has the bracha of Shechianu. It means that when you say Birkat HaMazon, or when you say the insert in the tefillah, you say a specific insert for Shmini Atzeret, which you not say on the 7 days of Sukkot. You say Chag HaSukkot, and now you say, Rashi says, you say Shmini Chag Atzeret Hazeh. You change the insert into the Birkat HaMazon, into the Ya'aleh V'yavo. You change the insert in davening, but not necessarily you get a Shechianu on the deal. Not necessarily. We hold we do get a Shechianu on the deal. We know that you'll say Kiddush, when you say Kiddush on Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, you will say Shechianu. But at this point, the Gemara is saying we have no proof. You wanted to prove it by the fact that it says there's a bracha, there's a unique bracha on Shmini Atzeret. The Gemara says not necessarily that's the proof, because who says the word bracha means Shechianu? Maybe bracha means that you change the insert. Lo Birkat HaMazon u'tfilah. That there's a change from Birkat HaMazon, and there's a change in the tfilah, how you mention the day of that 8th day. And we'll see tomorrow. We'll continue tomorrow more on this theme. I want to welcome everybody back. It's great to see everybody. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and try to encourage everyone else to come back to the class. We need, right, Michael? We gotta encourage each other. Okay, have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day, Rabbi. Thank you.
Great, you too. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Mazel tov.
Because my cell phone was missing.
Mazel tov. And have a great day. And this is the new, this thing, is it gonna block the people when they come on or not? You don't know.
Oh, I guess